Hey everybody! Today we're here to talk about a brand new game on BGA called Widgets and Digits. Widgets and Digits is an economic strategy game designed by Joseph Bugby with art by Alex Chang. It's produced by the Friendly Bee Game Company. In Widgets and Digits, you are competing to grow your very own widget company. But growth creates supply chain bottlenecks. You're going to need to closely manage your balance of buying versus building while keeping track of market economics to come out on top. The BGA implementation includes both the Worker Wars and Boardroom Battle expansions, so you're going to have to manage a competitive labor market as well as powerful game controlling abilities. All right, let's get started. Now, each game begins with the most important step in the widget making process, coming up with your very own widget idea. You got to name it, tell us what it does, and of course, come up with a catchy slogan. In 3 and 4 player games, you will vote to determine who has the best widget. Now, there's some stakes, so you do want to take this seriously. Your widget ranking determines the starting player order and also determines the winner in the event of a tie. After widgets are created, we move on to the first round of labor bidding, but I want to go over a few key details before we get there. Widgets and Digits is played over the 4 quarters of the fiscal year. Your goal is at the end of the fiscal year to have the highest net worth. Your net worth is the sum of your total cash as well as the resale values of any cards you might have purchased. The resale value, of course, being half of the card's purchase price. In each quarter, there will be a round of labor bidding where you hire workers, and then everybody's going to take one turn. During your turn, there will be an investing phase where you buy cards and resources. There will be a production phase where you produce widgets and make money, and it's going to finish with an upkeep phase where you pay wages to your workers. All right, let's start by breaking down the production phase. So the production phase is where you produce widgets and make money. It follows this 4-step process on your player board. Each stage is going to require some input resources as well as workers in order to run. At baseline, each stage requires one input resource as well as one worker, with the exception of sourcing. Let's walk through it. So the sourcing stage is going to produce raw materials for free. That's these rocks, okay? Raw materials are taken in the fabrication stage and turned into parts. Notice at baseline, it takes one raw material and turns it into one part. In the assembly stage, it takes parts, one part, and turns it into a finished good. And then in the retail stage, it takes finished goods, brands them as your own personalized widget, and sells them for $20 a piece. After production, there's going to be an automatic upkeep stage where you pay wages, $1 for every worker you have. Now notice, you start with one worker at baseline, and you get raw materials for free, so even if you do absolutely nothing, you're going to be able to make about $16 per turn. So now that we know how production works, our goal is to spend our seed capital, everybody starts with $20, on upgrades that allow us to boost our production and make more money. Now, the way you do that is by buying these upgrade cards, which replace the baseline stages in your process, giving you a higher capacity so you can produce more resources. But you have a problem. See, in Widgets and Digits, producing widgets is a sequential process, which means most of the time when you upgrade a stage and boost its capacity, you also need to increase the number of input resources so that you can actually produce additional stuff that you can sell for money. All right, let's go ahead and see how this works. So when you start your turn, there's going to be 3 cards for sale in the upgrade card market. If you want, you can refresh them or replace them by paying money. The cost to refresh will increase every round. So it starts as $1 in the first round and increases up to $4 in the 4th round. Now, let's take a look at each of these cards. So in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the price to purchase a card. So this would cost $8. You see the resale value, which is $4. So that's if I sell it, I get $4 back. This $4 will also count towards your net worth at the end of the game. Now, if it has a blue border, that means it's a Boardroom Battle card and it has an ability. So you can see here the text, which explains what the card does. And at the bottom, you see how it changes your production line. Did you see the increase that it does to the stage's capacity? You also see changes that it might have to your worker requirement. So if I want to buy a card, I just go ahead and click on it. Each of the cards are color coordinated to the stage that they upgrade. They also have a matching symbol. So in this case, if I buy this big red button, it's going to go ahead and upgrade my fabrication stage. Now, as soon as I upgrade my fabrication stage, I have two problems. The first problem is that I don't have enough input resources to take full advantage of this upgrade. And the second is I don't have enough workers to run the stage. Now you can see this in our production status tracking buttons. So the colors of these buttons let you know which stages may be a problem. So right now, fabrication is red because I don't have enough workers. Now, not having enough workers is a big problem because if you don't have enough workers, then a stage does not run at all. You don't even get the baseline 1 capacity. Okay, so this is a big problem. You definitely want to fix that. I do have a couple workers in my break room, so I can go ahead and meet the worker requirement of this card, which is 2, by sending one of these workers to fabrication. Now, as soon as I do that, my stage is now staffed. So it is going to be able to run, and you see assembly and retail both turn green. But right now, I'm only using it at about half capacity. This card has a capacity of 2, but right now I'm only getting 1 raw material from sourcing, so I'm not using all of the capacity of this card. If I want to if I want to take full advantage of this card, I need more raw materials. Now I have two ways to do that. I can either purchase an upgrade to the sourcing stage. In this case, I could buy this broken mineral analyzer for $12, which I actually do have the exact amount of money for, so I probably would normally do that. However, in this case, I want to show another option, which is you can purchase resources from the respective marketplace. So the cost to purchase resources is always the row that the resource is on. And it doesn't matter which resource you click, it'll always purchase the cheapest resource available. So in this case, if I click any raw material, I can buy one for $4 because that is the cheapest available. And if I do that, I will then have 2 raw materials, one that I purchased and one that I get from sourcing for free during my production. So let's go ahead and buy one. Okay, you can see the raw material that I purchased. And now you can see fabrication has turned green because I'm going to be taking full advantage of my capacity. I'm producing one, I bought one, that's 2 raw materials, that is becoming 2 parts. Okay, now if you do want to sell the raw materials that you purchased, you can just click it and it will sell back to the market. When it sells back, it gives you the sell price of one of the slots it fills, the most expensive slot. So in this case, I would just get $4 back. Now, here's a key thing. So when I run production, the way this is going to work is I'm going to produce 1 complete widget because I'm going to have 1 raw material that becomes 1 part, that becomes 1 finished good, that becomes sold at retail for $20. So you can see in my expected profit, I will make $20 from selling 1 finished widget. Now, I also am going to turn a raw material into a part. That's what my big red button is allowing me to do. However, the problem is that my assembly stage doesn't have capacity for 2 parts. It only has capacity for 1. So that extra part is instead going to get automatically sold to its respective market, which is the parts market, where I can sell it for $8. And here's where you see the advantage of buying that extra raw material, because I bought it for $4. I bought a raw material for $4 from the raw materials market, and I'm upgrading it to a part and selling it to the next stage for $8. So I'm making a nice $4 profit. And it's important to recognize that these upgrade cards that you buy, they're permanent until you choose to sell them or get rid of them. So this is kind of a recurring capacity benefit that I will now have for the rest of the game. So as you kind of upgrade each of these stages, they will boost your capacity higher and higher, and you can potentially eliminate the need to buy these extra resources, and that's how you start making really good profit. All right, so let's go ahead and quickly run my production just to see myself make that money. Great, I'm now up to $30. And the last stage is you can choose whether you'd like to fire any workers. As you can see, I do have a leftover worker in my break room that I did not use, so I'll probably choose to fire him, and I can always hire more workers in the next round if I so choose. So the last question that remains is, where do I get more workers? So workers enter the labor market at the start of each quarter. There will always be 2 workers per player, up to 8 workers in a 4-player game. you are going to do a round of labor bidding followed by a round of labor hiring. Labor bidding is where, in turn order, people choose a bid per worker that they are willing to pay. So, for example, you could bid $1, and that means that you are willing to pay $1 per worker to hire them. After everybody bids in bid order, so starting with the highest bid and going down to the lowest, ties are broken by turn order. You will then hire as many workers as you want at your bid price per worker. So if I bid $1, when it comes to my turn, I can hire as many of these limited pool of workers as I want at $1 per worker, right? So that means if you bid really high, you're going to get first access to the market, right? But it also means you're going to spend a lot of money per worker to hire them. Versus if you bid $0, it's free to hire them. However, there might not be any workers left by the time it gets to you. The most important thing to remember is that this is just a hiring fee. You still have to pay a wage of $1 per worker during your upkeep phase, whether they're in your break room or whether they're on your production line. Okay? This is going to be a very tricky part of the process, and it does require a little bit of forecasting, knowing how many workers you might need. Now, a couple things on that. One, it's important to know that 75% of the cards require 3 or fewer workers, which means if you pick up 2 workers in a round, you have a really good chance of being able to buy a card, right? The second is that there are cards that only require 1 worker, which means even if you don't get any workers, there's still cards that you can buy and afford, so you're not out of the game. You just might need to spend some money refreshing to find them. And that's pretty much it. At the end of the game, the winners are going to be posted to the wall of widget winners. You'll see your widget name, your username, and your score ranking. How high can you score? If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. If you want to download a complete set of rules, it's available on BGG. But other than that, I hope you guys have fun and enjoy Widgets and Digits. If you guys like it and you want to support the game, it is available on Amazon if you're in the US or on Gamefound if you're international. With that, I hope you guys enjoy Widgets and Digits.